meeting this afternoon, and in particular I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to colleagues from the Joint Commissioning Committee, to those who are here from Internal Audit, and also our colleagues from Audit Wales. This meeting today is about our accounts, our annual report, and our accounts as a health board, which we have to examine and put to the board for approval. That is the main and substantive item on today's board meeting. And just to remind colleagues, of course, to those who are presenting reports, that colleagues will have read the reports. And what I will ask is that those who are presenting their reports, if they can just pull out key issues to draw to members' attention. I think that would be very useful. Can I also advise colleagues that we are recording the board proceedings this afternoon. This essentially is to help us ensure the accuracy of the discussions when those discussions are written up, and of course a recording is available and will be available on our website. Apologies for absence. We've had apologies this afternoon from Linda Prosser, our Executive Director of Strategy and Transformation. Great, however, to welcome Vicky Wallace, who is attending on Linda's behalf. Apologies also from Stuart Morris, our Director of Digital, Helen Lentle and Linda Thomas, two of our independent members, Lauren Edwards, Executive Director of Therapies and Health Science, and Sally Bolton, Anne Morris and Lisa Curtis-Jones, who are our associate board members. So we will make a note of those apologies for this afternoon's board meeting. Item 1.3, declarations of interest. I've not been made aware of any declarations that are relevant to today's meeting. So if colleagues do have anything that they wish to declare at this point, if I could ask you just to raise your hands. Okay, and apologies, I've just had a message from Helen Lentle saying that she is with us. So Helen, apologies for giving your apologies. I didn't realise that you were attending today's meeting, but we'll make sure that's recorded correctly in the minutes. Okay, item 2, the annual report for 2023-2024. Item 2.1, this is the annual report and the annual accounts of the Health Board. You've had papers that have been submitted in advance of this meeting, and can I thank colleagues for doing so. Before I come to Sally May, our Executive Director of Finance, can I invite Gareth Watts firstly to introduce this item? Thank you.
Yeah, diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair. Yes, so I just want to give a bit of background and context to this, and obviously invite Sally then to talk to the accounts element. So in terms of our annual reports and accounts, as we know, we produce these in line with the requirements prescribed and specified by His Majesty's Treasury and by the Welsh Government. And obviously there are various facets to our annual report and accounts, all of which have gone through appropriate and robust governance through the process since the drafts were produced earlier in the spring. There's a lot of work on in across the Health Board in order to get these documents into good shape and to get them to our auditors in line with some quite tight deadlines. So my thanks to everyone involved in producing these annual reports and accounts, both from within Cwmtaf Morgannwg and also a number of our hosted bodies as well, which produce a number of information, including their own annual governance statements. So thank you to executive colleagues and to their teams for all the work they've done for that, and a special thank you to Callie from the governance team, who coordinates all that on behalf of the organisation. So it's just to assure board members that all of these have gone through the appropriate governance procedures through their life as drafts, and the Audit and Risk Committee has played a critical role within that, particularly in terms of the accountability report. They've had a sharp focus on those elements. And all board members were invited to make comments around the draft annual report and accounts as well. So the Audit and Risk Committee met on the 20th of June, where they looked at the draft annual report and accounts, And as indicated in the cover report, a number of changes were made between the 20th of June and yesterday's Audit and Risk Committee meeting, the most substantive of which being the insertion of the Auditor General for Wales's certificate and report, and updating the information that we've got in data regarding waste management in the fact that we've now got the confirmed data rather than the estimated data. So I'm pleased to report that following the Audit and Risk Committee yesterday, the recommendation from the Audit and Risk Committee was an endorsement for board's approval today on the back of what has been submitted. So in terms of next steps, should the board today approve the annual report and accounts, then the Auditor General for Wales is planning on certifying our annual report and accounts tomorrow and laying those documents with the Senedd. Following that, we would then submit these annual report and accounts to Welsh Government on Monday, and they will then be formally presented as part of our annual general meeting later in the year. So that was just to remind everyone really in terms of the process. But at that point, I'll hand over to Sally for anything that she'd like to say around the accounts element. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gareth. If I can just bring in Sally at this point. Thank you, Sally.
Yeah, I mean, Gareth's introduced the sort of thorough process that we've been through around the accounts and the annual report. And as he says, we've considered that through Audit Committee on a number of occasions. We've worked closely with Audit Wales throughout the audit process, and I'd like to thank them for the way in which they've worked with the team during what's been quite a it's a short time scale and there's a lot of work to get through. So to bring your attention to a couple of changes that have occurred since between the draft and final stage of the accounts. One set of changes has been in relation to the remuneration and staff report, and those really reflect how we've presented. So we've now reflected the inflation in terms of the real increase in pension figures of 10.1%, which had not been included at the draft stage, and there have been some changes in the way in which it's presented. As many of you will know, we have quite a complex set of NHS pension arrangements in which there are a number of schemes, the 95, 2018, 2008 and 2015 schemes, all of which in our draft stage we showed as separate disclosures, because individuals can be in more than one part of the scheme. Those have now been consolidated into one statement, and we also identified that in order to reflect that correctly, where there's a negative figure, those have now been shown as zero in terms of the consolidated position. All of this has been reviewed and agreed with Audit Wales, and you can now see that in the table. In terms of the accounts themselves, then the things to just draw to your attention is that, as you know, we host, and colleagues are present here from the new joint committee, which took over from WISC and ESC, and those are consolidated into our accounts. But when you look at our accounts, you see a column for UHB only, and that where appropriate, as well as the consolidated position to allow you to see sort of the difference. And where there are any transactions between us as a health board, WISC and ESC, they've been removed in the consolidated column, so it's sort of nets that out. Prior year figures are also shown where appropriate, so that's normal accounting standards. So since the draft accounts, Audit Wales worked with us to review, and there are a number of agreed amendments. So there are no amendments to which we have not agreed, where we've worked them through with Audit Wales. And in terms of the ones to really draw to your attention, was a 393k difference between the value of funding on this statement of changes in equity compared to the value in the cash flow, which we subsequently was identified and adjusted working paper provide. Some categorisation in terms of cash flow for right of use assets, which was on the incorrect line and which we've now corrected, but that has no value, that now has no impact on the bottom line. And in terms of the figures provided in the return for primary care, there was a difference in the mapping of the trial balance. That was then corrected, a reconciliation provided, and that was mapped into the updated return in the final accounts. There are other corrections which are minor in nature, which have been highlighted in the Appendix 3 of the Audit of Accounts report from Audit Wales, which I'm sure Mark will take us through. And probably at this point we go to their opinion at this point.
Thank you, Sally. Very much appreciated. On that point, if I can now go to Mark Jones from Audit Wales, just to have the Audit Wales opinion, that would be very helpful. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, thanks, Chair, and I'll follow your direction on keeping it light in terms of the papers being read, etc., and a thorough update from Gareth and Sally as well. I would like to say, however, that the main opinion here is the true and fair opinion, and that's unqualified, and that's a great outcome for the Health Board. Large, complex organisation, and getting that clean, true and fair opinion shouldn't be underestimated. Is a very good outcome to be celebrated. The regularity opinions have been touched on, and I think members are familiar with those and kind of why they have arisen in terms of the revenue resource limit, etc. The corrections are low in number, so Sally has touched on them. I wasn't going to go through them kind of one by one or in detail, but when you think of the size of Cwm Taf Morgannwg and Wisg and Esk, and two large entities there, the level set out in the report is low, and some of them are not so much corrections. In a sense, they're tidying up, like the 3 pension columns that came into 1 pension column. So it's a tidying up exercise in some ways, rather than necessarily a correction in that sense. So I wouldn't say much more on the content of the report itself, but just in terms of the process over the next into tomorrow, subject to your approval today as a board, and the signing of the accounts in the relevant places by the relevant people and the letter of representation. The Auditor General is scheduled to certify the accounts tomorrow at 11:30. And once certified, those documents are returned to the Health Board, so you have a copy of them, and also they go to the Senedd, and the Senedd lays those accounts, which is a required part of the process. So that the lay-in by the Senedd on their website, we would expect to happen tomorrow as well, or if not, certainly on Monday. There are some checks that we have to undertake on the day of certification, so that's tomorrow. And the real reason, the main purpose of those checks is around whether anything significant has happened between today and tomorrow. For example, something hits the media that's quite significant and could be relevant to 23-24. Unlikely, but it could happen. Those checks need to take place before that 11:30 certification. So there is some audit checking that happens tomorrow morning ahead of 11:30. And just to close before there's any questions, is to thank the staff within the Health Board and Wisg and Esk. Many of those staff are in governance and in finance, but certainly not all of them, and therefore all employees that have helped us throughout the audit. Just a thanks to all of those people. And I'll stop there, and Steve, my colleague, and I can take any questions.
Thank you, Mark, much appreciated. Okay, can I just throw this back to colleagues on the board and ask if anybody has any comments about the process, about their involvement, and certainly any questions to Sally, to Mark, and to Steve, and to Gareth if needs to be on the process itself, but any questions at all in relation to the preparation of the accounts and what's been contained in them. If you can raise your hand if you've got any question. I don't see any questions this afternoon, Mark. I think you've been let off the hook, Mark. That's rather good. Okay, well, thank you very much. Before I come to the matters that the board is being asked to approve, can I just firstly say a very big thank you to Sally and to her team. The production of the annual report and the annual accounts is one thing, but this is the culmination of a process of work that is done in remarkable thoroughness throughout the entirety of the year. So although this is a set piece to bring together the 2023-24 accounts, I know how fortunate we are as a board with the quality of people we have working in our finance teams who do an amazing job in keeping not just a watchful eye in terms of how money is being spent and making sure that we're accounting for where that expenditure has been used, but also in working with colleagues throughout the organisation to try and find more effective, more efficient ways of using the public resources that we have at our disposal. So there is an enormous amount of work that goes on, and I know that that also entails, very importantly, and obviously, that strong working relationship between our team within CTM and our colleagues in Audit Wales, and also with our colleagues in internal audit as well. So I'm just really conscious of the enormity of the work that's done in the course of the year, and I just want to place on record my thanks as chair of the board to Sally and to the team of people that she has working with her, who do an incredible job in helping and delivering this final product from that financial year, as we're also now very much in the throes of the current financial year. So thank you to Sally, the team, from all of us. There are items that the board needs to approve. So what I'm suggesting to do is I'll just go through the two items for approval. There's one authorisation and two matters to note. So for the approval bits, if you could just, once I've asked you if you would approve, if you could just raise your hand, that's probably the easiest way of doing it. So the board is being asked to the CTM UHB annual report and accounts for 2023-2024 for onward submission to Welsh Government, and also to approve the letter of representation, including in the ISA 260, which is included further on in ISA 260 agenda item 2.3, but very much to approve the letter of representation in addition to the approval of the report and the accounts. Can I just ask for a show of hands for that approval, please?
I can't find mine, so I say yes.
And unfortunately, Chair, we can't raise hands on this, so we just need people to write approve in the chat if that's possible.
Right. Okay. Okay. Okay, I can see colleagues have approved those two items. Thank you very much. And can I also ask the board to authorise me as chair, but also the chief exec and exec director of finance to sign the relevant sections of the annual report and accounts, the letter of representation on behalf of the board. If I can just perhaps ask you just to put yes or agree, that would be ideal. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. That matter, that's been authorised. Thank you very much. And just to say, the board notes the governance statements and accounts received from the health board's hosted organisations listed at 2.1.1 to 2.1.5. And the board also notes the formal presentation will be at the annual general meeting later in the year, following which it will be published on the Health Board's website. So on that note, on the basis that we have noted the governance statements and the accounts received from the Health Board's hosted organisations, which are listed separately on the agenda, and I don't believe there's anything else that needs to be done in respect of those reports, can I propose, therefore, we move to item 2.2, which is the head of internal audit opinion and the annual report 2023 to 2024. And if I can just check, is Paul Dalton on the...
So hi, Chair. Sorry, I can't see either Paul or Emma actually on the call. So if I may, I'll just say a few words about this, if that's okay, Chair. So this is the Head of Internal Audit's annual report and opinion, which went to the Audit and Risk Committee yesterday for noting, which is issuing a reasonable assurance opinion for the Health Board. And again, just to reassure members, this has obviously been looked at by the Audit and Risk Committee, and obviously that committee also takes the internal audit reports across the year.
Thank you,
Gareth. Asking the board to note that.
Yes, yeah, Thank you, Gareth. That's very helpful. So the board is just being asked to note the report which has been tabled. Thank you very much. Item 2.3, the audit of the financial statements, the ISA 260 requirement report, which includes the letter of representation referred to earlier and the audit opinion which Mark has outlined. Mark, I'll come back to you again on this, just in case there's something in addition you want to add.
No, Chair. Yeah, nothing to add to my earlier comments.
That's fine. Okay, thank you. So the board will note the report and the audit of the financial statements, which includes the letter of representation and the audit opinion from Audit Wales. Thank you very much indeed. Item 3, any other business? I've not been notified that there is any other business that needs to be discussed this afternoon. Therefore, just to conclude the meeting by saying, firstly, our next meeting in public board will be on Thursday, the 25th of July at 9 o'clock. That will take place not at the hub in Llantrisant, but that meeting will take place at Coleg Cymoedd, and colleagues will receive the agenda and the papers for that meeting by Thursday of next week. As there's no other business at all this afternoon, can I thank colleagues for attending? Can I also thank those colleagues who attended the audit committee meeting yesterday, chaired by Patsy, and for the work that the audit and risk committee does on our behalf, and the scrutiny the committee gave to the annual accounts and the report before coming to our board meeting this afternoon. And again, just to reiterate to my thanks to all those who've contributed to this important process. So diolch yn fawr, thank you very much indeed. That concludes our meeting. Thank you.